History has a way of repeating itself. Last year on stage 6 in the Vuelta, Sepp Kuss took a huge lead, and this year another GC contender went in the breakaway from Jerez de la Frontera. They started in a Carrefour supermarket to Junquera, 185 kilometer stage. It doesn't look like much, 3,700 meters of climbing across these hills. And there was a huge breakaway fight on the Category 1, but we didn't see it because the coverage started a bit later. When it started with 105 k's to go, they were on the descent, the peloton, off that Category 1 climb, and a break had formed, not as dangerous as the one before. Vacek was trying to join, but it was pretty chill in the peloton. Soler wanted to get across, and he was marked by Movistar, who had chased back the original breakaway, and they say we're not pulling because they got their boy Peleo Sanchez in the breakaway up ahead. So Dani Martinez comes to the front, calms things down to stop any more attacks, and here is the breakaway. We've got two from Equipo Confama, Berrade and Castrillo. They are both good riders. Write them down in your little black book. Got Peleo Sanchez, who beat Plap and Alaphilippe in the Giro. He's a nasty rider. And we got Ben O'Connor, who is 156 back on GC. And you know Ben O'Connor. He's a good GC rider. He came fourth in the Giro this year. Bora, though, not two-faced because they got the best placed GC rider in the breakaway, Florian Lipovitz, who was so good in Swiss this year, and the Giro, in fact. And he's on 150 in GC, so they don't have to pull this breakaway back, even though Ben O'Connor and Christian Rodriguez is in it. Red Bull let the gap slowly bleed out to 2:20 to 4 minutes, because they got their boy in the breakaway and they're happy for him to get free time. It's not their problem. Ben O'Connor's already looking back as they get 4:15, and not everyone's doing their fair share. In the breakaway, he's got Clément Berthet as a teammate who was also strong in stage 5, actually helping Gal in the Tour de France last year. But Bahrain blinked first. They got Tiberi in the white jersey, so they're chasing Lipovitz to stop him taking a huge advantage on Tiberi in the white jersey classification. There's a bonus sprint. Lipovitz didn't seem aware of it, and Ben O'Connor just sauntered across and took 6 free seconds to actually draw level with him on GC. But then they came back together, but the gap was coming down, or at least it wasn't moving anymore. Bahrain with Keplinger had pegged it quite well at 4 minutes 30. O'Connor's getting frustrated again with not everyone pulling, because not everyone here is for GC. Sanchez, he doesn't care if he wins by 1 second or 10 seconds, and O'Connor, he gets very frustrated with Vine, but Vine's not going to ride through. He's on 10 minutes on GC. He's got Almeida in second on GC. Why would he work to help this breakaway get a huge advantage? He's going to sit on and play for the stage win. That makes sense. O'Connor's getting frustrated. And then he says something to Vine, and I don't know what happened. They were basically, everyone was reaching an impasse because no one wants to keep pacing. The group's not working. And the solution came with Ben O'Connor just riding off the front. Lipovitz was taking something in the feed zone, or this was the decharge zone where they could get rid of their rubbish. And you see O'Connor looking back, he just glides off the front. Lame rises in the wheel, didn't even have to get out of the saddle. They get onto the back of the motorbike, and all of a sudden they got a gap. Equipo Confama, they also let the gap out because they got one of their boys going across to it. Christian Rodriguez doesn't want to do it. Lipovitz is the one who's asleep here. There's one man he cannot let up the road on the flat, and it's Ben O'Connor. And here he's looking for someone else to close it, but really it's his responsibility to close down Ben O'Connor and not let him up the road. And that doesn't happen. And O'Connor, he's a good one-day rider. He came third and was one of the strongest riders in that Tour de France rouleur stage with Asgren and Morich, the stage Morich won in the Tour last year. He's not just like a pure climber. He's good on this sort of terrain. Very quickly gets 45 seconds on a 6K 4% climb. Lipovitz tries to attack across, but O'Connor seemed to have much better legs than the other day. And Bahrain, they've brought the gap down to under 4 minutes just about to Lipovitz, so they're chilling. Castrillo has got his teammate Berrada in the middle, and Berthet is marking as well. So there's two guys in the chase behind marking things up. And very quickly, as Chente always says, be careful of the fuga de la fuga, because the Group 2, or now this is Group 3 syndrome, can take over. And all of a sudden, Ben O'Connor has a 30-second gap. He extends that on the descent, a beautiful descent. Looked like good tarmac too, towards another Category 3 coming up. And then they go into these small towns, and the peloton is just not going to go quicker. than the breakaway through these narrow chicanes. We see these in Volta Andalusia in February, actually. But there's just no way the top GC teams with everything to lose and with Roglic in third wheel, they're not going to rail these descents or go all out in the towns. And this is the strange part of the stage that doesn't make sense to me. Bora had the numbers to retake control here. Lipovic is far dropped by Ben O'Connor on the road. He's like 3 minutes behind him. Soler asked Gamper to pull, and Red Bull refused to pull. They had the numbers and the incentive to retake control. And it's UAE with Baroncini who kind of do that work. Barade, Sanchez, and Frigo are caught in the middle. Ben O'Connor promptly drops Lamerizer on the Category 3 as expected, and he can just, get some ice, put it on his back. And it's Movistar who are the ones, and it's Nico Denz's there. Verona's pacing for Skelmos' GC. It's all the other teams who seem more perturbed by Ben O'Connor. So it's quite strange that Red Bull, it was a good tactic to play Lipovic the way they did initially. To have him in the break, great tactic. But then when he gets dropped, you got to change. Things get worse for Frigo and also UAE. This was a very tricky corner. You can see one of the Movistar riders actually missed this hairpin, and Frigo wasn't the only rider to crash. In fact, Adam Yates, who wasn't so good on Vuelta the other day, he crashes in that corner. He loses nearly 2.5 minutes and wouldn't get back on. So this was an incredibly decisive medium mountain stage. Ben O'Connor absolutely flying, one of his strongest rides ever. He said it's his favorite day on the bike ever, just about. And Lipovic is 5 minutes behind him at this point. He's 1 minute ahead of the peloton. He's not even really ahead of Almeida or anybody on GC anymore. So UAE, it's not their problem. Carlos Canal and Movistar are the ones still pacing, and Bora got Danny Martinez, they got Aliotti, they got Vlasov. So again, it is strange that they didn't pace at this point. They only do when Canal takes over, and in fact, they let the gap out when Aliotti starts pacing. It goes to 6:50 again, which causes Bahrain to start pacing again. So maybe they were bluffing, and in fact, Roglic wasn't feeling so good, and they didn't want to go any faster. Maybe they wanted Lipovic to play that card that they got a rider up the road and they don't need to chase, but Ben O'Connor, what do you think? He gets given a 5-minute lead on GC plus the stage win. Huge comeback from him after maybe a disappointment earlier. Lipovic finishes 5:12 behind him, and the peloton led by Del Toro about a minute further back. Is this a problem or no worries? Roglic in good shape to win this Vuelta, can take that time back. Anyway, O'Connor winning the stage ahead of Frigo, then Lipovic, Berthe, Rodriguez, Lamerizer, Van Sevenot, Berardi, then Del Toro, and David Gaudu. But in terms of GC, it's been thrown on its head. Ben O'Connor takes a 4:51 lead ahead of Roglic. That's bigger than Sepp Kuss' lead last year. And Ben O'Connor, I think, is on a different team. Almeida on 4:59. What do you think is going to happen? Is O'Connor just going to drop and this is no big deal? Or are we going to see him holding the red jersey for quite a while? Let me know in the comments down below. Until tomorrow, ciao.